On October 27, 1883, detectives found a hole in the vault floor, and everyone assumed it was the work of a master safecracker. That's what the newspapers ran with. The official story was clean, almost elegant. A criminal genius had studied the Manhattan Savings Institution's layout, planned a precision drill job, and executed it like a surgeon. The vault was breached from above. The thieves knew exactly what they were doing. Case closed. I've read the police reports from that week. They're confident, almost smug about it. But confidence isn't evidence, and the deeper you dig into what actually happened, the more the official narrative falls apart. The Manhattan Savings Institution stood at 33 Broadway, a four-story granite fortress that the city's wealthy trusted with their fortunes. By 1883, it had survived the Civil War, the Panic of 1873, and a dozen other financial shocks. Its vault was considered impenetrable, cast iron, steel-lined, with combination locks that took minutes just to manipulate. Burglars had tried, they'd all failed. This bank felt invincible. On the morning of October 28th, employees arrived to find the vault door standing open. Inside, $7 million, roughly $80 million in today's money, was gone. The police commissioner arrived within hours. Detectives examined the scene, and what they found was that hole, a precise circular breach in the vault floor from below. The narrative took shape immediately. Thieves had tunneled underneath the building, drilled up through the floor, and made off with the haul. Here's what supported that story. The hole was real. The tunnel was real. Investigators traced it back beneath the street under neighboring properties leading to a building 2 doors down, and they found tools, augers, picks, chisels left behind by the perpetrators. The newspapers ate it up. This was a heist of surgical precision, the work of men who understood geology, engineering, timing. The public was transfixed. But then the arrests started coming. Within weeks, police had rounded up a gang led by a man named George Leonidas Leslie, and here's where the official story began to buckle. Leslie wasn't a mining engineer, he wasn't a safecracker, he was a bank robber, yes, but his specialty wasn't precision drilling or patient tunneling. It was something messier, more brutal, and far more improvised. The gang that hit Manhattan Savings wasn't a tight unit of specialists. It was a loose collective of burglars, many of them ex-convicts, working together on a job they'd been planning for months. Some had cased the building, others had mapped the neighborhood. But the tunnel itself, that wasn't a masterwork of engineering, it was a shortcut. And the real story of how they got inside is far stranger than the newspapers ever reported. The gang had rented a basement space 2 buildings away. Over weeks they dug, not with precision, with brute force. They broke through walls, scraped through earth, shored up their tunnel with whatever timber they could find. It was exhausting, dangerous work. Men working in shifts, covered in mud, listening for footsteps above. The tunnel wasn't elegant. It was a scar they carved through the bedrock of lower Manhattan. When they finally broke through the vault floor, they didn't find a lock they could finesse. They found a problem they had to solve with tools. The vault door was sealed, so they drilled the hole. Everyone marveled at that. Wasn't a signature move. That was a mistake they had to correct. They'd miscalculated the angle. They had to adjust, drill again, get it right, under time pressure, in darkness, with maybe an hour before dawn. Once inside, they didn't have time to be selective. They grabbed what they could carry, cash, bonds, jewelry. They stuffed it into bags, hauled it back through the tunnel, and disappeared into the New York night. The whole operation took maybe 2 hours. It was as graceless as a mugging, just bigger. And it worked. The police caught Leslie and several gang members within days. But here's the thing, they never recovered most of the money. Leslie was tried, convicted, and sent to prison. But the $7 million largely stayed lost. Some historians believe it was fenced quickly to underworld contacts. Others think it was buried, waiting for the heat to die down. I've seen old police correspondents hinting at both theories. Neither was ever proven. But the real story isn't about the money. It's about why the official narrative mattered so much. Banks in 1883 were terrified of looking vulnerable. Manhattan Savings Institution needed the public to believe their vault was penetrated by genius, by precision, by forces beyond ordinary human resistance. That was better than the truth, that determined, patient, ordinary criminals had simply dug a hole and taken what was inside. The Manhattan Savings Institution survived the heist. It eventually recovered some assets through insurance and restitution, but the incident changed banking forever. Vaults became deeper, security became obsessive, and banks stopped telling stories about how their money was stolen. They started telling stories about how it couldn't be. The tunnel heist didn't just steal $7 million. It stole the illusion of absolute safety and forced the entire industry to rebuild. Subscribe so you don't miss the next heist, where the real story was buried deeper than anyone realized. Subscribe so you don't miss the next heist, where the real story was buried deeper than anyone realized.